Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kari and today I'll talk about books. All the recommendations I'll give you today are all short books and they have less than 300 pages. And for this edition of the video, I wanted to include books that have gothic, dark, horror, mysterious themes because we are still in October, and as they are very short, you can still finish one of them before the end of the month. Also, all of these recommendations have very dark, green, gloomy atmospheres, so they are perfect for this time of the year, and I will talk about them from the shortest one to the longest. The first book is from one of my favorite series of all time, which is A Series of Unfortunate Events, and it is called The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket. It has only 176 pages, so as you can see it's very short, and the majority of the books in the series are short as well. This is a middle grade mystery series about Baudelaire siblings, Violet, Klaus, and Sunny. They became orphans after they lost their parents in a fire, and after that they are set to live with Count Olaf, a terrible, terrible villain whose only purpose in life is to steal their fortune. This book isn't necessarily scary or creepy, but it's very melancholic and dark, even though it is a book for kids, but I think everyone can enjoy it. What I love most about this book is the writing style, because it is brilliant. It has a very peculiar and absurd sense of humor that I know not everyone will enjoy, but if you do, it's amazing. I promise that you will fall in love with the characters because they are very smart and resourceful and kind. They are really great protagonists and great inspiration for kids and adults alike. And as I said before, this is the first book on a series, so if you enjoy it, you can continue on with the rest of them. The next book that I have here is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. The book has less than 200 pages, but it depends on the edition, and in this one, which is mine, in Spanish, it has 192 pages. This is a classic Gothic novella. It was published in 1886, and it's set in London. In here we follow a lawyer who is investigating some unusual things happening between his old friend Dr. Jekyll and an evil man called Mr. Hyde. I love this book because it's very philosophical, but in an entertaining way, because it is a mystery. You want to know what is going on. The story takes a close look on what is good and what is bad and what makes a person a good person or a bad one. This also has some science fiction aspects, and it is the perfect blend between a psychological thriller and a mystery. A funny thing about it is that I found out about this book through a TV show, Once Upon a Time. They retold the story in the 6th season, so that's why I wanted to read it, to compare it, and I really liked the twist that they did, but I was very glad that I read it because of that, because I really enjoyed this book. I recommend this to everyone because it is a very memorable and introspective story, and also is very short. The next one is another classic which also deals a lot with deep introspective topics, and this is The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is also my Spanish edition and it has 288 pages. This is also a very philosophical novel, and it is the only novel that Oscar Wilde published. This is about Dorian Gray, a beautiful young man who, after a conversation with Lord Henry, who shares his beliefs about society and beauty with him, starts to obsess about his appearance and his beauty, and he decides to sell his soul basically for eternal youth. The portrait of himself is now the representation of his soul, and as he starts doing very questionable things, the portrait is the one who represents them, and he stays beautiful and young. It's very quick to read because it's very addicting and you want to know what happens and how Dorian falls more and more into immorality. And here, as well as in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, we have the conflict between good and bad. The characters are also very well written. I hated Lord Henry and his influence on Dorian, but I get that that was the point of his relationship with him. And the last thing I have to say about this book is that even though it is a classic, it doesn't feel like one. It is very easy to read, very mysterious and atmospheric, and I think you will enjoy it. And the last one I have is a YA novel, a fantasy story. It is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. And this book is the exception because it doesn't have less than 300 pages. It actually has 352 pages. but I included it because a lot of the pages are pictures. This story is about Jacob, a boy that has a very boring life living in Florida. And after a family tragedy, he goes to this little town in Wales where he starts to discover that the fantastic stories his grandfather told him might be real. So he goes to explore this town to find proof that these stories are actually real and the photographs that his grandfather showed him are true. So that's why I said that it's a quick read, because it has photographs. I will show you. It has this kind of photographs which are very creepy, some like these two, but don't worry, the story is not scary. And what I love about it is that the writer actually collected these photographs a lot of time before he wrote the book, and then he wrote the story around them. And that's why I recommend it a lot, because it is a very unique experience, something very original and captivating. Another two things that I have to say about this book is that I read the first trilogy, because now the series is longer, but the next two books I didn't like them really. I just think that the first one is very unique, but if you do like it, then you can continue, but I don't recommend the other two. And also on my previous video I recommended the movie, which I also love, but they are like two different stories. I mean, they are the same up to the middle of the movie, but then the movie goes in a way and the book in another way. So if you like them both, tell me, because I've seen a lot of people who hated the movie because they loved the book, but I love the book and the movie, so I'm curious. Well, those are all the recommendations that I have for you today. If you want to know more about my opinions with the spoilers, I will leave the link to my Goodreads and the link to the reviews of these books. Also, if I'm not mistaken, these two books, I think you can read them for free on ebook format, so if I find them, I will leave them in the description below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy it, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel for more content each week. See you next time.